Hello and welcome to another video here at Movie Bash, and today we're going to talk about the new Amazon Prime Them. It's a new TV show, but before we carry on I want you to hit that subscribe button. Just click it right below, just there. Thanks. Now, Them. It's a new TV show about killer ants that are trying to take over, giant killer ants that are trying to take over the world. So Them is a new Amazon Prime TV show starring Deborah Uriday, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. We've got Ashley Thomas and Alison Peel. Written by Lee Marvin. Okay, so the story goes that there's a black family in South Carolina in the 50s that moved to LA Compton, which is a white only area at the time, and they had a previous traumatic experience that I won't get into because it's spoiler territory, and it was quite bad, and they're bringing that baggage along. But what happens is when they get to this white only area, all the neighbors don't like them because they're a black family and pretty much want to get them out. Now the husband, he's got a new job, and it's quite a good job for somebody of being a black person back in the 50s. He was an engineer, and he probably worked very well. He did work very hard to get to the point where he could get this job, but as you can imagine, he's not being treated very well there, and everyone's against him, being the only black person, and probably because he's intelligent too, probably can do the job better than most of them. He seemed pretty good at it. Now, along with all what's going on, there's a horror element in it. There's some kind of ghostly type things going on in the background that you will get to know more about towards the end of the season, but it goes on throughout. I will say it's quite spooky at times, and you do forget there's a horror element now and again, and when it shows up it's pretty, oh yeah, bloody hell. So as I said, going back to the neighbours, they go out of their way to make life very hard for them. I mean, ridiculously hard. I mean, like, you'll grit your teeth and you start punching walls when you see it. So at work, he has a terrible boss, and he's struggling with the racists at home, and he's struggling with the race at work. His boss gets him to do stuff. He doesn't give him enough credit for anything he does. He gives him a folder, for example, and he goes, oh, I want you to do this work, and he gives him the folder, and as he opens the folder, he's told, don't open that folder until I say you can do it. I'm like, really? And he dangles the fact that I could get rid of you and I'm doing you a favor all the time, and you know, he relies on this job. He has a family and a nice house and a nice area, so it's a tough one. So on to positives. What I liked about the show is that the acting is amazing. All round it's amazing. The family is really good. The chemistry between them all, it's a great dynamic. The racists, especially the main lady, as you'll see, I think played by Alison Peel, she's horrible, but the acting, she's really good. She makes you hate her a lot. I was hooked straight away from the beginning. Now, sometimes it takes me a while to get hooked into a show, you know, a few episodes. First 5 minutes I was in, all in. I was gripped. I couldn't believe what was going on, and I couldn't stop watching it. It normally, as I said, it normally takes me a while to get into a show. Straight away, first, second, third, I couldn't stop watching. As I said, the story is good, and I have a lot to say about the story, but I'll do that in a spoiler review, which I'll be doing in Cinema Chop Shop, and you should check that out with Davey from the 80s later on. So this was really tense. I loved the tension. I was holding on to my chair. I couldn't believe. I was gritting my teeth half the time, and I was very angry a lot. And when a show can bring up so much and some emotions like that in somebody, well, that's down to good acting and good everything. So that's a good point. That's a really good sign. Now, when it comes to the horrors, at the beginning, on the first episode, something happened, and I got goosebumps for it. I was like, I didn't expect that. I got a little bit of goosebumps. It's down to a lot of it, like The Conjuring. There's a lot of silhouettes in the back. It's somewhat what you don't see in bits and pieces. Not, you know, when you didn't see Freddy Krueger, it was scary until later on you did. And it has that element going on it. And The Conjuring, it has that eerie look, and the clothes and all that. It was, yeah, that got me. Now, the colouring of the whole TV show was very vibrant. It was very colourful, very light. It was kind of a 50s look, but if I was a film director, that's the kind of colours I would have liked to have seen. Not all this saturated blue they seem to have on everything these days. So the colouring was great. The cinematography was spot on. Now the makeup was brilliant. Not just so much on the actors themselves, but I'm talking about the makeup and the prosthetics or whatever they had on the monsters and the ghosts, or whatever you'd like to call them. Also the blend of CGI, where I've heard people noticed it, but I didn't notice any CGI. I wasn't sure between certain things and whatever was not, apart from the obvious, of course. But yeah, so I thought that was spot on as well. The production value of this seemed to be really high, and you know, it's great to see that on a TV show for a change. Onto costume design. The costume design was great. It was spot on. Like the rest of the show, they seem to have got this down to a T. I loved the suits, the ties, the shirts, the shoes, the dresses. Not that I would wear a dress, but it looked all spot on, and it was really colourful. And yeah, I can't fault it. It looked great. Soundtrack was great. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack had some 50. There was a couple of 70s songs in there too that I really liked. I wanted to get some on my Spotify, which I did, and yeah, it was the songs that you'd hear on the radio, on the TV, through films and stuff that you know, that you tap your feet to. And again, they didn't miss a trick with this either. So you could say this is like a Jordan Peele. It's probably first thing you'd think of. This is a Jordan Peele TV show, directed, written, something to do with him, but it's not. And the fact that I like Jordan Peele, it's a good thing, so it kind of works. But you could compare this would be Get Out meets Us meets Green Book meets The Conjuring all in one. That's how the best way I could explain this TV show. And yeah, it all the blend of all those four, and that's what I would say this was like. So negatives. This is where a few problems I had. Come to episode 7, this is where the issues starting for me. 1 to 6 were great, I loved them. So there was a lot of backstories brought up throughout the show, to do with the racist lady and her husband, and a few other bits and pieces that we get to know, little bits and pieces, and it leads to nothing. And it was like, well, what was the point in all that, giving us some backstory? Like example, the racist, the main ringleader lady, she's you find out some parts of a story that looks like it's going to lead to something. We don't find enough about it, so we think we're going to. We didn't. Also, her husband disappears now and again, and it's not made quite clear. You know, we're guessing to where he's gone and all that, and that's never brought up again. And I'm like, well, that's another thing that didn't need to be in this. There's no point to it, you know. So that was a big letdown for me. I was pissed about that. Also, at his work, his job, there's a few storylines that are kicking up on that, where the top boss is giving out promotions, and he's trying to introduce himself and trying to find out if he can get promotion. Why not? Why can't he? Such and such. It felt like something we were going to find out more. Never saw it again. In fact, I think the part of the story of the job just kind of ended towards episode 6, and not that he was sacked or anything. It was just that we never saw much more about that. And again, I was like, what's the point of... Now, when it comes down to racism, back in the 50s, I would say it was at one of its all-time high. It was terrible. And me being a white person, I haven't experienced but I have a rough idea what's been going on. And seeing this show made me want to throw up. But what I will say is that all the white people seem to be in it just so they could be racist. I mean, there wasn't any let up. We're talking about the whole town, everyone at work. But it wasn't just racist or don't want to associate him. It was classic racist. Everyone was full on over the top, like they were out to hate and kill them. And I thought, yeah, you're pushing it now to the point where not everyone would be that bad. I mean, yeah, there'd be a handful, and yeah, they'd be pretty bad. I would say in some ways it is accurate, but I don't think everyone would be that bad. And it just felt like they were surrounded by pure hate, and it was like, you need to let up here a little bit. Now, when it comes to the horror element, as I said, it's pretty good, and I like the creepy bits, but I felt you could have taken the whole horror bit out and you wouldn't have really noticed, because I found the scariest part about it all was the racist, how bad it was, and I was more interested in what was going on there. The horror section, the horror part of it was just like you could take it all out, it wouldn't have mattered. And the fact that it's 10 episodes, I would have preferred to get more of a backstory to the characters that they gave backstory to, unfinished backstory, than seeing bits and pieces of horror that I felt like towards the end that I wasn't that interested in anymore. So I felt a lot of it was incomplete, and they could have taken that part out. So as I said, after episode 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9 was good, but I felt like there was a lot of stuff that was going on. Was it delusions? Were they seeing stuff? Was it actually ghosts, or was it something that happened from their past that kept coming up? And it was all of them, and it was hard to tell what was real and what was not. And that's fine now and again, but it was like constant for 2 episodes, and I was getting a bit, let's just get on with the story, with what was previously going on, and that took me out a bit. And didn't like that. This is a little bit of a nitpick. There's a few words that a few of them say in it that it felt like it wouldn't have been something that those characters were portrayed to have said, and it just doesn't feel like something they would have said in the 50s anyway. Even if they were those words are around then, it's just, even if they were, it just didn't feel like something the family would have said. And I wish they hadn't done that, but it's only a nitpick. Now, because it's a horror, as I said, the bits and pieces that were in it that were quite creepy, and they give you a jump. But sometimes there was a few jump scares that I felt that wasn't needed, because the horror parts were frightening enough, and you didn't need these silly jump scares thrown in now and again. And just because it's a horror, or part horror, you don't need to throw it in. Just keep it the way it was, and it was fine. My final word to all in all, this show was really good. Now, I know I said a few things I didn't like, but it's really worth a watch, and I can't really tell you, I recommend anyone to watch this. I mean, this is just my opinion now, and everyone's different, but I will have to say I'm going to give this a thumbs up, and I recommend you watch it. And if you have watched it, what did you think of it? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Do you feel like I do? Or are you going to watch it soon? Please let me know in the comments below, and once again, like and subscribe. But for now, and until next time, see you later. Now, before I go, I want to talk about an old school friend of mine called Gerald O'Sullivan, who done a 13.1 mile race the other day for a charity called St. Luke's. Back in September of 2019, Jared suffered the great loss of his mum due to cancer, and St. Luke's helped tremendously all the way until she sadly passed away, as they offer support to people with incurable illnesses. Since then, Jared has gone on to run a number of marathons for St. Luke's charity, including the London Marathon, and will be doing it again next year, and he has already raised over £5,000. St. Luke's Hospice cares about the people approaching the end of their life. They aim to give the people we care about the best possible quality of life each and every day. Supporting people and their families is the heart of what they do. Focusing on what matters to them is the center of their care. Founded by local communities, they have been providing free, expert end-of-life day care for people since 1987, in their patient IPU since 2000. The IPU care for people in their final days provide intensive care help, get symptoms under control, or give respite care. Many people who are cared for in the IPU go home again. 2/3 of their care is now provided in the comfort of people's homes, as they respect that this is where most people would like to be looked after. The care they give is free of charge, available to all, and respects all cultures, religions, beliefs in their richly diverse community. They believe in empowering people to a wide range of expert care intended to keep people feeling well, independent, mobile for as long as possible. In addition to the home care, the IPU, alongside outpatient clinics, they provide a wide range of care intended to support people's well-being, including patients and family support, therapy and physiotherapy services. So please sponsor and support Gerald on his journey by donating whatever you can to uk.virginmoneygiving.com/Gerald O'Sullivan, or donate direct to stluke'shospice.org, or call 0208 382 8000. Sometimes the smallest things can make a big difference.